And now, another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
In just a moment, we bring you one of Stephen Vincent Benét's great stories, Elemental.
This is Jim Amici. Are you from Alabama? In the year 1540, Hernando de Soto and his band of treasure seekers were the first white men to look upon the part of the New World which is now the state of Alabama. In the more than 400 years since de Soto and his men made their exploration, Alabama has grown to a state with a population of more than 3 million people. It's become the leading heavy industry state in the southern part of the United States. Birmingham, its principal manufacturing center, is called the Pittsburgh of the South. Alabama is a leading producer of lumber, marble, petroleum, and dolomite. Its farmlands produce cotton, corn, hay, and sweet potatoes. Alabama, the 22nd state to join the Union, has contributed much to the heritage of America. In the years ahead, Alabama will add much to America's future.
A young man, an assistant in history at Harvard University, sits across from his host at a little dinner for two in a big, ugly residence on Madison Avenue. And now the after-dinner talk has somehow drifted to elementals.
I was speaking, Mr. Latimer, of the elementals of life itself. What rules this curious thing called human existence? What forces sway it most wholly and make it a pageant or tragedy, or only a gray succession of lackluster days?
I'm afraid I haven't thought about that too much, Mr. Slake.
An historian? Well, I don't suppose it can be helped these days. Would you care for more Abacchio? Or perhaps the Cocrato?
No, thanks. Nothing more. It was delicious.
How nice of you to be so pleased. I must confess I found the bavette prepared, shall we say, a little beyond al dente. Still, your pleasure allows me to excuse the oversight. Your gratification is my own.
I thought it was perfect.
Good. The Abacchio, the little spring lamb, was actually less than 6 pounds on the hoof. Barely able to walk, I should say.
6 pounds?
A little less. And all the way from Rome. I suppose it's a shame in a way, but then refinement of appetite is bound to lead to what I imagine you think of as cruelty.
Oh, I do think it's cruel. I don't see why refinement of appetite, as you call it, should necessarily lead to cruelty.
Don't you? What do you say to a bit of pasticceria and an excellent marsala I stumbled on in Sicily?
Impossible.
Oh, that's too bad. Tonight I wanted to especially honor you for your flawless translation of Guido Ciardini.
Thank you. And forgive me, it's just too much.
Really? Perhaps a little later, the beautiful country cheese, bel paese and pears. But for now, my question, Mr. Latimer, was about essentials. What would you say was the essential, invisible power that rules all human affairs?
I really couldn't say. Unless you mean God.
I was thinking of something quite different. And it was you who clarified it for me in your remarkably terse version of the chapter on the merry diversions of His Highness, Prince Alessandro.
Prince Alessandro. Yes, I remembered His Highness very well. And I remember the agony of the translation, the endless searching for the exact word in each sentence of the chapter, describing the 15th century prince and his refined and exquisite delights. And then I heard Slake's voice again, soft and purring like a gigantic cat.
I understand you're engaged to be married, Mr. Latimer.
Yes, sir, I am.
So you will forgive me if I presume that you're in love.
You embarrass me. But I think you can presume that we both are. That is to say, I love Catherine, and Catherine loves me.
Ah, so. Catherine Vane, I believe?
Yes, Catherine Vane.
Would you say, then, that love was one of the powers that guide the destiny of men?
Yes, I would. Wouldn't you?
On the contrary. I venture to say that love is the most fragile of things, always evanescent, disappearing. Much too delicate to last.
And yet love has been known to build empires.
Romantic nonsense. Hate and fear and hunger have created empires. They always will. There are only 3 prime movers in this vagrant piece of oddity we please to call the human soul.
I don't believe you.
I see. You think love can hold out against fear?
Yes.
And love can stand against hate?
Yes.
And do you think love can survive hunger?
Yes, I most certainly do.
Very well, then. Let's get back to Alessandro and the two lovers whose devotion was a proverb in his court. They were willing to undergo anything in life or death for each other.
Alessandro was a madman.
Perhaps. In any case, he suggested, as you remember, a test of this immortal emotion. A very simple test.
Hardly simple. His Highness was well known for his cruel and sensitive torture.
But only with reason. And in this case, a reward was offered if they withstood the ordeal. And it was liberal enough. A dukedom for the man, a permanent revenue for them both, and titles of honor for each.
But the penalty, Mr. Slade.
Why, death, of course. Why not?
Carried out by one of Alessandro's curious methods of making people die.
True. But even so, Guiu Ciardini says the lovers were genuinely delighted to accept the test. They embraced it, he said, as if they were to dance together at feast day, with great nobleness and joy of heart. But as you know, the test, unfortunately, was an elemental one. Hunger. Hunger for 10 days. That's all, Mr. Latimer.
Yes, but in separate cubicles with no knowledge of time.
An inconvenience, perhaps, but not an
Having to stare at each other through a glass partition, but unable to speak.
Yes, wasn't that a pretty idea? And on the 10th day, the partition removed and one small piece of bread thrown into them.
It wasn't a fair test. By no means a fair test. Giving them food and then making them wait a half hour before touching it.
And yet if this elemental love of theirs had been greater than elemental hunger for 1 half hour, they both would have had their heart's desire forever.
But it was the means, the dragging out of starvation.
It was hunger. The elemental. Guiu Ciardini says it was difficult at first for the men who were to take them to execution to separate them. They had torn and entwined their way into such a deadly knot in their death grapple for that one small piece of bread. They acted as any two people would have acted. Any two would have been the same.
Any two would not. They failed because their love wasn't big enough, certainly. But well, some people would have been big enough. Some loves would.
Some people would have been big enough, you say. I wonder. I very much wonder, Mr. Latimer, just what people you mean.
Dozens. Most people, or half of them at any rate, even now.
Mr. Latimer, would you?
Would I be willing to undergo Alessandro's test? To prove what? That love was durable? That man was not ridden and spurred by fear and hate and hunger alone? Surely Slake in his comfortable boredom was playing hypothetical games. And he had dragged me back 4 centuries to play with him.
Well, Mr. Latimer, does it frighten you? Or would you be willing to wager your future professorship, say on your and one woman's ability to withstand Alessandro's test? Are you absolutely sure of yourself and the lady in question?
This strikes me as an elaborate joke, Mr. Slake. But of course I'm sure.
Very well, then. Suppose we try it.
What? Oh, Mr. Slake, the premise is preposterous.
As to the stakes, I could hardly ask you to put up your lives and forfeit, things being what they are. But a written promise from you that you would give up your present career forever and enter any business I wished you to, at a salary entirely at my discretion. That would be quite sufficient in case either one of you failed.
You can't be serious, Mr. Slake. The idea would be fantastic if it weren't so insolent.
Should the test be withstood successfully, and I should not require more than 20 minutes' duration for the final bread to stay in your common cubicle, a check for $20,000 to be delivered to you the same day.
$20,000. It meant that Catherine and I could marry at once instead of waiting another year. It meant leisure for research. It meant a home and children. It meant security. Everything that Catherine and I wanted most in life. But the conditions were so unreal, so lost in antiquity, that I could only feel as though I were caught in a silken net and unable to get out.
Well, Mr. Latimer, I offer.
And I refuse. It's idiotic.
Idiotic? Will you remember it that way when you're poor and at your wits' end? Or will you remember that you might have had $20,000 for the asking in exchange for a little courage?
I don't know. But I'll be frank with you, Mr. Slake. If you'd made your incredible offer to me alone, I'd have jumped at it. But as it is...
Of course, young lady. Miss Vane would be unable to bear it.
What are you doing?
Nothing, Mr. Latimer, nothing. Merely a notation. You see, I have a whim, since you are so obdurate. I should like very much to find out what Miss Catherine Vane will say to this trifling experiment of mine.
In just a moment, we will return for the second act of Suspense.
Now, as you no doubt know, there are two kinds of seals that are the responsibility of the Secretary of State. First, there is the official seal of the United States that is stamped on all official documents. The Secretary of State takes care to see it's always on hand when needed. Now, the other kind of seals he takes care of are those that swim in the ocean. Yeah, really. It's up to the Secretary of State to work out deals with the representatives of other countries on how many seals can be caught in international waters and when. Now, in addition to these seal deals, he works out similar arrangements on fish and lobsters. These agreements are called treaties, and before they go into effect, they have to be approved by 2/3 of the Senate. In fact, any time our government wants to work out a deal with a foreign country, whether it be on trade, mutual assistance, fish, seals, or lobsters, it's done by treaty. The treaty is signed by the President and often is not drawn up until after the Secretary of State has worked out the rough spots with the Senate in order to pave the way for prompt ratification.
Good evening, Mr. Latimer.
Good evening, Mr. Slake.
Everything perfectly all right, Mr. Latimer?
Everything entirely satisfactory.
Well, charming. You're admirable guests, Mr. Latimer, you and Miss Vane. I really wished for you at dinner tonight. The bisque had a trifle too much whipped cream in it, but the fish was perfection. Brodetto, you know. An ancient Spartan preparation.
Stop it.
Oh, did you? I forgot. My apologies. And by the way, I trust you understand the inconvenience of no soap or toothpaste. Cleansing, to be sure, but also edible. I am sorry.
I have no complaints.
No complaints. Very well, then. Good night.
The door closed on the ruddy color of Slake's superbly well-fed face. And I turned away to look at the little white dints my teeth had made in the flesh of my wrist. I forced my eyes up and away from those pale hunger markings. Away and around the walls of the neat, luxuriously decorated box of a room I had come to know completely by heart. How long had it been? Slake visited us twice a day. And how many times had he come already? 8, I think. Yes, I can still remember that much. 8. That would be 4 days. A short time. And how long ago it seems that the contracts were drawn.
As you see, my dears, a miniature apartment on the 3rd floor. 7 rooms in all, and all soundproofed. I use it whenever a problem chances to come up that I wish to think over entirely undisturbed. We could carry out our little experiment here in perfect peace.
Catherine, you understand this is simply a cruel and useless charade. It's insane, and I refuse.
$20,000 for 1 week's lack of occupation.
Yes, Mr. Slake, if we win.
And, of course, you will. In consideration of the fact that neither of you, in all probability, possesses a Renaissance physique, I would be willing to shorten the time to 7 days.
But what in the world is there in it for you?
Amusement. In the old days, they had gladiatorial games, and that was as it should be. You see, I agree with Juvenal the Roman, who said that the only needs in life are bread and circuses. And this is my circus. You may have the bread, if you can wait for it.
The answer is no.
Oh, Sherry, darling, just think now. It's everything we want, Sherry. Everything now. And it's ours if we only have the courage to take it.
Of course, Mr. Latimer, if you have doubts, I would be willing, if necessary, to carry out the experiment with Miss Vane alone. The conditions might have to be altered somewhat, but the terms would be the same.
Oh, yes, Sherry, yes. I'd rather have it that way. Really, I would. Then there would only be one of us, but it would be for both.
The first day wasn't bad at all. After all, two ordinary human beings, physically fit enough, not weaklings. The Slake had given us Bibles and other religious works. We couldn't hold out 7 days without food. The pain at the end of the day, the giddiness was bad, all over like a cork. And with it, the fierce and intermittent spurts of pain as if it were filled with burning air. And then as time went by, my sense of time went with it. There was only pain now. Terrible, terrible pain. Pain that was as much a part of me as my ticking heart. And then Slate came again. How many times he had visited, I no longer knew.
Still no complaints, Mr. Latimer?
Still no complaints.
I'm sorry to have taken away your books, but the teeth marks and the leather binding of the Hindu book gave me no other choice. I'm sure you understand.
I understand.
And after all, it's a mere question of hours, shall we say?
Hours? Hours?
Or shall we say days?
Days? Is it days?
I'm afraid you'll have to puzzle that out for yourself, Mr. Latimer.
In just a moment, we will return for the concluding act of Suspense.
Throughout the animal kingdom, from the lowest to the highest order, possibly the most common trait is the desire to provide for the welfare and protection of the family. That's why you are now serving in the armed services of your country, to be in a position to protect those you love in case of a national emergency. But how well have you protected your family in the event that something should happen to you? The day may come when your family would need help, and you would not be around to help them. That is one reason why Congress passed the Servicemen's and Veterans Survivor Benefits Act, to do something more for your family. All military personnel are insured under this act, and your family receives additional protection in case something happens to you. If you aren't aware of just what these benefits are, how about finding out? The Servicemen's and Veterans Survivor Benefits Act is a good friend. Get acquainted with it.
Slate!
Right here, Mr. Latimer.
I'm afraid I shall have to withdraw from the contest.
Really? But only a few more hours would have brought us to the interesting part?
Yes.
According to the agreement, Mr. Latimer...
I don't care about the agreement.
Neither of you may be released without the full written consent of the other.
I'll find it, though. She... Just look at her.
A little less plump, perhaps. A forfeiture clause would be invoked, of course.
I don't care.
And I could use your brains for, let us say, 10 years.
Anything. She can't walk anymore. She can't move, don't you see?
You know, Mr. Latimer, the favorite Roman breakfast was bread dipped in wine.
Get her to sign.
Don't touch me, Mr. Latimer. Don't touch me.
Please, please.
What an exhibition of temper. What a pitiful exhibition. I'll see what the young lady has to say.
I remember that Slate came back, said that Catherine had refused to sign. But I don't remember being carried down the corridor and placed in the other cubicle. I remember only colors that streaked before my eyes like blots of livid light. Piercing colors of sunset orange and scarlet and bright green. Reeling dreams like the patterns a madman draws in the air. And at the end of it, a collapse and a broken piece. A piece so complete that I thought I had died. But turning on my couch, I saw another figure in the room. And between our two couches, there was something on the floor. Something solid and white. A piece of bread. And now the figure on the other couch stirred. Its great eyes stared at the bread. The thing on the other couch had seen the food, too, and wanted it as bitterly as I wanted it. But I was careful. I put my hands slowly in front of me like the paws of a cat and carefully slid to the floor. I waited on all fours for a moment, waiting to see what that woman would do. But she didn't get down from the couch to fight me for the food. She wasn't able. She could only lie there and stare at it with hopeless eyes. Who was that strange, gaunt woman who didn't move to take the bread from me? I reached out slowly, very slowly, and I touched the bread. Its surface was rough and pleasant, exquisite. Good bread, and it was mine. In a minute, I'd feel that first sweet taste of it on my tongue. But there was something wrong, and I couldn't think of what it was. And so I brought the bread carefully to my mouth. Not a crumb would be lost.
Sherwood. Sherwood. Sherry. Oh, Sherry, dear. Sherry, dear. Oh, Sherry, I'm so hungry.
Catherine, that was it. That's what I forgot. It was Catherine who was hungry, and she'd have to eat right now. That was Catherine. That lean image of fever on the couch was Catherine, and she was hungry. I began the immense journey across the floor to the other couch. Catherine was hungry, so she must be fed.
Dear Sherry.
Darling Catherine. Here, darling. Bread. Eat it.
You're first, dear. You're hungrier.
No, dear. No.
Oh, Sherry, you dropped the bread.
Yes. We've got to wait. If you can.
I'll try.
Time. All over. Oh, pick it up, you babies. Pick it up. It's yours. Well, do you think I'm going to feed you?
Suspense.
You've been listening to Elemental, adapted for suspense from a story by Stephen Vincent Benét. In a moment, the names of our players and a word about next week's story of Suspense.
This is Jim Amici. Know how to tell what a person is really like? Just watch him drive. Anyone can apply the soft soap to give all the appearances of being a lady or a gentleman. But when the chips are down, when just one driver cuts in front of him or robs him of his so-called right-of-way, then you'll see the sparks fly and his true nature. In many cases, the nature of a self-centered fool. Remember this. Your driving reflects you. If you want to be considered by your friends as a responsible person, then act like one behind the wheel as well as anywhere else. Safe driving's a moral responsibility. Safety is no accident. Be a responsible driver. Safety check your car and double check your driving.
Heard in tonight's story were Phil Meeder as Latimer, Santos Ortega as Slate, and Ellen McRae as Catherine. Listen again next week when we return with 60 Grand Missing by Robert Arthur, another tale well calculated to keep you in
Suspense.
Suspense has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.